This episode of the Jersey Beer Guys podcast is sponsored by White Eagle Liquor Store in Riverside, by Beer Belly Brew Tours in Oak Lynn, and by Dr Brewittle's in Maple Shade. The Jersey Beer Guys
and One Girl
podcast is hosted by Rob Dowie.
I think I got it, but just in case, tell me the whole thing again. I wasn't listening.
Amy Diamond.
You are a very well-respected journalist in the craft beer industry. You know that, don't you?
With Ian Dowie.
I only came here to do two things, man. Kick some ass and drink some beer. Looks like we're almost out of beer.
And Eric Bracken.
Dad, I'm thirsty. I want a beer. What about you? You want a beer?
Featuring Tony Iacono of the Two Brothers podcast.
Tell what's in beer, eh? Like my brother can tell the difference between beers by what his burps taste like.
And Kevin Riley O'Reilly of Philly Beer Trail.
Now you listen here. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
Produced by me, Richard Rabin.
I think this is one of the traits of a really good producer. Keep the talent happy.
It's the show about New Jersey craft beer you didn't know you wanted to listen to. Hello and welcome to another stupendous, fine, wonderful, amazing, and even educational episode of the Jersey Beer Guys and a Girl podcast. I'm Richard, the weary traveler here, now the producer, giving you a little insight in what happens on this episode. Of course, we're going to have a new Tony's Takes today. We have Rob, Amy, and wait a minute. We don't have Eric. We don't have Ian. Whoa, okay, we do have Jack from Dr Brewittle's. Well, we got a show. We got three people, we make a show. Also, we have Chris. We're at Shoreside Brewing this week. They talk about all kind of crazy stuff just in this first hour. Yeah, right, I said it. First hour, it's a 2-hour episode. We're going to break it up in two because, I don't know, most of you don't have the attention span to listen to a 2-hour episode. I don't have the attention span to listen to a half-hour episode. I have to listen to that in chunks. Well, anywho, they talk about some fun stuff in this episode. They talk about beer a little bit. They talk about animals. They talk about the Home Brewer Invitational. They even get into the new brewery, obviously. They talk about collaborations. They have a lot of fun on this. They drink. Amy does her normal inquisitive self and asks all the right questions, always making me so proud. Rob holds it all together. And Jack, of course, being the smart person in the room, asks some very impressive stuff. It's a great episode, guys. Get ready, kick back. Here's a new Tony's Takes.
What's your name? What's your name? Tony!
Hello, and welcome to Tony's Takes. This is a reoccurring segment on the Jersey Beer Guys and Girls podcast where I sit with my jar of pennies and throw in my 2 cents on beer-related opinions. This week's take is why you should travel for beer. The COVID restrictions being loosened, this is a perfect timing for this take. One of my favorite things to do is going to explore new breweries and towns, chasing the elusive dragon of suds and food around either my home state of New Jersey or the entire United States. COVID has put a serious damper on that for the past year. It's canceled beer fest like the AC Beer Fest and Summer Swelter Beer Fest, where I can try beers from breweries I have not been to, are not in close proximity, or just open. Here's why you should travel for beer. Number 1, by travelating, you're stimulating the local economy. Did you know that 80% of Americans live within 10 miles of a brewery? In New Jersey, we have some antiquated laws about breweries, but you can plan the whole day by going to a new town and trying the beers from a brewery and the food from the local restaurants. You could do Hang Sauce and Sea Isle, known for their wings and sandwiches, and bring it to Slack Tide and Ludlam Island to pair with beers, or go to Hamilton for some Mexican from Fiesta Mexicana, try Vinyl, 3-3s, and Chimney all within a square mile. By supporting these local small businesses, you are helping promote and encourage more people to visit these places. People on social media make posts about how they had a great time on a Vermont beer adventure, and that inspires other people to try new places. It's cyclical. Number 2, here are some of my experiences with traveling for beer. I traveled to Boston for a beer, meat, and cheese convention, which was honestly one of the best beer and meat and cheese and food experiences I've had in my life. Beer from Trillium and Foreign Object, plus cheese and meats from local New England farms for 4 straight hours and enough Tums to kill someone with a calcium deficiency. In the summer of 2019, which was the last Summer Swelter Beer Fest, we used that as a pregame for my fantasy football league. I got so blackout that it screwed up my fantasy football team for 2 straight years, and I don't think I'd have it any other way. One of my fondest beer adventures was my 30th birthday. Me and some of my best friends took the drive to mythical Central Jersey and visited Kane, Icarus, Bradley Brew Project, and Last Wave. Before that day, I'd only visited Icarus, and I had never had a beer from Bradley Brew Project or Last Wave. It proved to be an outstanding decision to try these new breweries. Another positive and fantastic beer experience was visiting Jester King Brewery and Farms in Austin, Texas. It was a gorgeous farm where they get most of their ingredients for their beers. We spent the entire day drinking every beer they had at least twice and eating pizza. Everything was amazing, and I'd fly back to Austin just for Jester King. I've been to Cigar City in Tampa, which was the beginning of one of the biggest days of drinking in my life. In Massachusetts, Trillium, Treehouse, Mystic, Aeronaut, Night Shift, all in one day. The classic sojourn to Beer Mecca Dogfish Head in Delaware, with a little stop to Mispillion River. Cannot wait to start doing these things all over again once COVID's truly over. Number 3, you get to meet new people. By traveling, you meet interesting and crazy new people. I've met a lot of great people since I started my beer journey, including, of course, the host of the show, Rob Towie, Pat from a former head brewer at a New Jersey brewery, which I'm not going to say, Adam Mazzola, who runs the Summer Swelter Beer Fest, and so many more. Listen, go expand your horizons and expand your tastes. To quote St. Augustine, the world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page. Beer brings people together. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, or Twitter at Tony Iacono. That's TonyIocono. And don't be a jabroni, of course. And that is Tony's take for this installment of Jersey Beer Guys and Girl podcast. Cheers.
Okay, let's get the ball rolling.
What you are about to hear is bizarre, unsettling, and riveting.
We've got entirely too many troublemakers here.
10 seconds to self-destruct.
If there's still a world left when this is all over, I'd like to buy you a beer.
To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
All right, we're back at it again. Jersey Beer Guys.
And a girl.
All right, there she is. So
here.
I'm running the board again. And so I'm going to apologize again for me running the board, because we all know how this works when I run the board.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll be lucky if this gets out.
Even though, no, it'll get out. It just won't sound the best. Thank God for Richard. And what's funny is I learned how to do the board, and I taught Ian, and I just forgot all about it. So speaking about Ian's not here. Of course, he's got a kid, so he's not allowed out to play anymore.
Which is understandable.
At least for a little bit.
For a little bit.
A little bit. Eric's not here. I couldn't get the phone to work, so Eric's not here. You hear the echo. We're upstairs at Dr. Brewittle. So Jack from Dr. Brewlittle's is here. How you doing, Jack?
It's me. I'm good.
He's good, yeah. So he's becoming a podcaster too. It's like the third time he's on our podcast. He was on Two Brews podcast. He was on another podcast.
I'm getting around.
Yeah,
well, that's because you're here all the time, Rob. So
that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your doctor's appointment.
It's
doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
Yep. So, hey, place is nice.
Whatever. It's your home away from home.
So.
Or is the other place your home away from home? This is home.
Well, I haven't been here that much lately, so I'm trying not to spend so much money.
Yeah, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're just lazy. You get up too early now.
It's a little cold, too.
Yeah.
So, but we're here with Chris from Shoreside Brewing. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
He's first-time podcaster here.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not going to listen because I don't like the sound of my voice recorded because...
No one likes the sound of their voice.
He goes, I'm going to have to have...
Apparently, it's the worst. Common thing.
I sound horrible.
He said he's going to have his wife listen and tell him how he did.
No, I'm not going to ask how I did. I'm just going to let her listen.
You're just going to let her listen to it. So we're upstairs at Dr. Brewlittle's. A nice open spot here, and Chris was kind enough to come from Ventnor area. Shoreside Brewing is down in Ventnor.
Yep.
You're a home brewer.
I am.
What drew me to you and to call you up about this is you have an invitational going on.
Sure, yeah.
So let's start off the bat with that. What's going on with that?
Yeah, actually, before we start off with that, I understand this brewery is connected to the owner of Mount Laurel Animal Hospital.
That's my partner in this place.
Just want to say thank you. Our Bernese Mountain Dog Lila had a sort of neurological back issue back in July, and we brought her to Mount Laurel. Dr. Cohen took great care of her.
She's great, yeah.
It was a scary experience, but that you guys did great work, and thanks for that before we start. Because
he always appreciates hearing that. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah,
he's a good dude. They're a really good place over there. I mean,
it's awesome too. I like going and watching the emus and the pigs, and just sitting in the car and provide sort of a comedic entertainment. It's pretty impressive build out. But getting back to beer. The Homebrewer Invitational is something I was kicking around in my head for a while. Sort of largely came out of last year, given the lack of homebrew competitions compared to a normal year, just given COVID. There were some opportunities, but what I really wanted to do with that was to make it a little bit more of a showcase for some serious homebrewers around the state of New Jersey that I've either gotten to know or have just come across. And I didn't just want to make it sort of a one-time thing. I wanted to make it sort of a year-long event. There's going to be 4 different competitions. The first one is about a month from now. In March, we're going to do Saison, Grisette, Bière de Garde. In June-ish timeframe, we're going to do a Sours.
Good summertime beer there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. September, we're going to do lagers right around Oktoberfest-ish time, so people could either, tap the traditional German lagers, or could go however they want, And then finally in December, we're going to do stouts.
Okay.
So it gives people for lagers, it gives them enough time to make their lagers. It gives them enough, if they want to barrel age stouts, they could start barrel age. It takes a couple months at the homebrew scale. Same thing with the sours. If they want to make a sour in a barrel, they could bang that up by June. But I really, I wanted to focus on sort of styles that maybe not every home brewer kind of goes after, and sort of to push everyone into really some more technical brewing styles that could showcase, and if they haven't brewed it before, like I haven't brewed a Saison since I was brewing in extract in a New York City apartment. So it's going to be, fun, but I'm getting into it and I'm really excited. I'm probably going to brew also a Bière de Garde because I've never done one, and just sounds like
what's that?
It's a similar in the Belgian family to Saison, but it's a little bit more malty forward.
Okay.
Less of the phenols coming off the yeast. Traditionally, it's lagered for a couple weeks, so it's a traditional. You don't find them many places.
I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Yeah, it's a style you probably don't come across in your regular brewery. There's some out there, and then there's different. You can make an amber one, you can make a light one, you can make a dark one. So
now I got a Bière de Garde.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure your brewer will appreciate the challenge, but it's a little bit different, and sounds delicious by description. So I'm probably going to brew that as well as a Saison, and then if I could push out a Grisette by the timeline, I'll pick the one I like the best and submit it.
Right.
But in terms of the invitational, we're going to do traditional beer judge certification program guidelines. I'm working with the BJCP to find 2 certified drudges, and then probably a third will be a guest judge from a brewer, a brewery, or somebody in the industry that sort of excels at that style. So, I've sort of begged Sean and Amanda from The Seed, who just opened down in Atlantic City. Saison is their wheelhouse, so we'll see if, when time comes around, if it works for them to get them judging. But really the idea was to just get these group of, it's myself and 12 other brewers that are in various stages. The most advanced is the guy named Tony Romano in Gear Block Brewing, just got his site approval last week.
Okay.
So congrats to him. And then there's
Harry from
Experimental.
Harry.
Yeah. So I've never actually had his stuff, and I'm excited to see what he comes up with in these. I've heard nothing but good things, and the way he approaches beer, he's got that tradition, that history, but he also gives it that fun spin, which I admire. Harry, a few of my local buddies from South Jersey, Bald Guys Brewing, which is Tom, he's out of the Mays Landing area. Dorian at Wims Brewing, he's out of Atco area, but he's been making exceptional stuff for years, and he's won some competitions down here. And so I really just wanted to give an opportunity for these brewers to start talking to each other, going through the experience together, because launching a brewery is a difficult process. Right. And the more you could share experiences amongst peers, the easier and a little bit more tolerable it becomes. And I also wanted to use it as a platform to sort of market some of these other breweries to people that they might not be in touch with, and start to help their process a little bit, because I think it's important to help each other along and, get each other's names out there, and at the end of the day, make some friends and drink some good beer.
All right. Now, if somebody wins and they make a really good beer, how's everybody else? Is there a way that everybody else is going to be able to try it?
Yeah, so everybody is submitting 24 bottles, or 25 bottles at this point. 3 will go to the judging, and then the rest of the bottles are going to go to the rest of the contestants. So everybody will get 2 bottles of everybody else's beer. So basically, adding myself in, other than yourself, there's 12 other beers to try. So it's going to be a logistical challenge, but everybody at the end of each quarter should get 12 different unique beers, 2 bottles of each, and that's sort of fun. You know, You get to try every single person's beer and talk about it, chat it up. I really like this. How'd you do this? You know, so that's also part, because home brewing is a wonderful community. It's a lot of fun. You get to learn a lot from other people. Yeah. And my hope all along the way is, people talk to each other. They start to collab on home brews.
Yeah, we did a homebrew collaboration with people here.
Yeah, I saw that.
I tell you what, if you want to, I'd be more than happy to, like, whoever wins each batch of a beer, if you guys can scale it up, we could probably brew it here and put it on tap.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah.
I'd
be more than happy to scale up a winner's recipe and throw it on tap.
I think that's, so maybe I got to tell them to submit a few more beers to take you guys.
I mean, we get our canning line in May, so I'll be canning in June. So anything after June, we do like a five barrel batch, put like half on tap, can half, so you can come pick it up.
Well, that's much appreciated. I mean, that's an incredible opportunity for the brewers.
Yeah, get them in here, and whoever wins the session, because I think I'm half BJCP. I have to go take my tasting test. I only passed the online thing, but the closest tasting test was in like Austin. After I passed it, and I'm not flying out to Texas.
No. So no, that's incredible.
Homebrew is important, man. I mean, the reason we invited them down here is I don't think a lot of breweries in the area, really in Jersey or in general, would be there without someone starting home brewing or someone starting in that kind of field.
Yeah, I mean there's always a first step in every crazy idea to open a brewery. It usually begins with home brewing in some capacity.
Yeah, I cheated a bit.
There's cases where it doesn't, and it doesn't have to. But usually you find, the seed was planted in home brewing, and and I think you talk to many people who have evolved into very successful brewery businesses, and they're like, man, I just wish I could get back and make a 5-gallon batch and my homebrew days. Like, now I got to worry about HR, I got to worry about competition, all this stuff. I just want to make beer again.
It became a business, and it lost the lost the touch,
which is great, because they turned it into something. I don't know. My Waze is on my phone, so my phone pocket was heating up ungodly. But sorry about that. I mean, it's people that start breweries usually love beer, and that usually starts at a visit to a brewery and then to home brewing.
That's why I look this way, honestly. It's not salads that built this body. There's a lot of yeast, water.
Well, listen, they say no good story starts with "I had a salad."
Especially with the beers coming out these days.
Right.
There's some wild stuff coming out.
They're really going against health and wellness in many categories these days. With the
you're starting to put fruit and veggies in the beer. So
and they're coming out with light.
That's fine, but when you add 50 pounds of sugar on top of that fruit. Can it up.
We don't mention that.
You don't say the L word in this brewery. There's no lactose comes into this brewery.
No?
Well, there's a place for it.
In milk stouts.
In milk stouts, and I think in other beers, there is a place for it. I think a well-executed milkshake IPA is not a bad thing. It just has to have that balance. It can't be, a candy bomb. It needs to all make sense together.
Yeah, what you run into is that there's a lot of people just throwing them in and everything, though. So overused.
And that's sort of my current gripe with the industry is everyone's sort of out gimmicking each other, and I just want a return to beer that tastes like beer, looks like beer. There's plenty of place for fruit in beer. There's plenty of place for adjuncts and additions, but dial it back and balance it out and make it a beer experience, not
100%.
Not a convenience store.
Right.
Candy experience.
Well, I think that's part of the problem too, is it's always, people are always looking for the next thing, you know what I mean? Once you had that beer, you're on to your next beer or whatever it is. They just don't.
Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with the maturation of the market. When I was first getting into craft beer, I was very much that way. I think, you want to try new, and then you get tired. You get really tired of chasing the new stuff, and new, it seems it's there's a good quote from Game of Thrones, chaos is a ladder. It's like that. I feel like right now what's coming out is sort of this over the top, and we've just like sequentially hopped there, no pun intended. And now, eventually as a consumer, sort of that stuff tires out your palate. It tires out how you feel in the morning. It tires out how many beers you can have. It's supposed to be a social thing. And obviously we have the challenges of today, but, I go out and I'm not, it's 2:00 and I'm drinking a milkshake IPA. I want to go to bed by 5.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't want to hang out with my friends or family and talk at a bar, throwing down that stuff. So I think eventually, as the consumers start to get fatigued of that, we'll dial it back and dial it back and dial it back, and we'll get to a point where it's, back to better, clean, balanced beers, or it just keeps going off. But, I think a lot of it too is driven by, like, I feel for all these breweries, and they have to keep the lights on, they have to pay staff, and I think it does sell at the end of the day, and it incentivizes them to make it. But I think it's part of the breweries too to say, let's get back to a little bit of responsible beer making and making beer that is, well balanced and executed and focused, because there's a lot of fun technical aspects you could get into to challenge yourself and, make a really good beer. So, my hope for beer is that it does come back to some more of that balance.
Good. So speaking of beer that we're having balance, you have a Dr. Brewittle Beer in front of you. Now, we started out the day with his wit beer, which you said had orange, tangerine, and some ginger in it,
and dried ginger in the late edition. And that was definitely not my favorite beer I've ever made of my own, but it's right now, having not being able to have people over, I have about 8 kegs of beer, so I can't, I got to get rid of it.
Don't worry.
Yeah. But actually, that beer was, I was explaining, that beer was, I brew 10-gallon batches usually, and then I have 2 basically fermenters for 10-gallon batches and 2 for 5, and I do split batches. So I'll brew 10 and then throw them into the smaller ones, and then usually I'll keep one just the base beer, and then one I'll try to have a little fun with it. And that one was a collaboration with my buddy Dan, who's local. He's part owner of Water Dog Smokehouse in Ventnor, and I said, I want to make a smoked mango wit beer. I think it'd be kind of really cool, and it would be. I just think that the smoke. He's never smoked mango before. You get really high off it, actually,
especially the peel.
So it ended up being. The smoke ended up sort of overtaking the rest of the beer. And then I added a little bit more just regular mango to try to round it out. My last attempt to save it is to back sweeten it with a little bit of honey and clarify it a little bit, but
smoke's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like the second you step over it, it gets shot.
Yeah, but I have a buddy, Ryan from Shoreside Brewing, who he made a great rock beer. He'll probably take the 5-gallon keg off my hands because he loves smoke. So I'll find somebody to drink it, but I hate to dump beer, and I don't do it unless I absolutely just need a keg or.
Well, we have one of the guys on the show here, Eric. He pretty much is our garbage can. He'll drink anything. So if you really
he's our Mikey.
Yeah, he's our Mikey.
But from my perspective, I don't like to put beers like that out either.
Right,
my name's tied to it. So, I try to really, if I'm not liking a beer, I don't try to get it in front of people.
Right.
But yeah, so that's where we started at this wet beer, but now we're drinking.
You're drinking the Maple Shade Lager from Dr. Brewittle,
which is a darker amber lager, which you don't see around a ton. Beautifully clear and bright, which as a brewer you could appreciate that tremendously.
Everything that I was going to say.
Well, you were at least thinking it.
It's making a beer that's crystal clear is not easy.
Well, our big thing is that we use like big brewery tech on a small system too. So we don't have a 5-barrel system, but I have a 40-plate filter out there that we can run stuff through.
You don't see a lot of steam-driven 5-barrel systems these days. I mean, you guys made the investment, and steam is it pays. But steam, in the long run, it saves on utility cost. If you have the
I've never been a fan of direct fire. You have like pitting, you can scorch stuff. Like steam is a lot easier to work with.
If you could go that way, why not? So kudos. I mean, your brewer's happy with it.
Yeah. Well, that's the big thing that we did was, like I said, I kind of cheated in opening a brewery. Like I did like 2 brews in a bag years and years and years ago, but my big drive came from like craft beer and just drinking it. And then my friend told me like, let's open a brewery. I said no first, and now here I am.
Killing it.
Why is that cheating though? I mean,
so I almost say like I didn't have like the home brewing things. Like when we first opened up, he asked if I wanted to brew, and I knew if I put my head into it, I could do it. And I still like, toy around with it here and there. But our big thing was like, I know I can run front of house and do our day-to-day operations and stuff like that. But I want to find like pretty much a professional, like someone who really knows their stuff. And so like when we actually got to Josh, I was happy because we share a lot of the same sentiments of like, not oversimplifying things. Like the reason I have our core 4 and I'm never going to touch it is because like make a clean Pilsner, make a good lager, like don't fruit everything, like get some variation out there, but your variation doesn't come from adding like crazy adjuncts and sugar and all this stuff.
Yeah, I think, one thing I don't like is the death of the flagship. I think flagships can and, do work if you do them right.
That's why we have the 4. I mean, it's variation too. Like you want variation, but you want people to be able to come in and say like, I can try like, your new stuff and I can have a beer here and there, but I know if this beer is always going to be here, I can go back to.
Yeah, if you don't find that new beer, if you don't like that new beer, then you could always go to the other beer.
Yeah.
I always said that too, that I always like a brewery that has, try all you want, but if I can walk in, I could drink 3 beers that I know I like that I could have. If I don't like anything else, I'd love that.
Yeah, you need consistency. You need that customer that's been there before has to, if he had such a great experience with one of your flagships, then he's able to get it anytime he comes, and he's happy with that.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people, and the craft beer market is, you have your people that'll chase everything, but I think a lot of the growing the market is just the people that are used to drinking flagship type beers, and they have a place. And so my plan one day is have essentially 2 flagships, a Mexican lager and a hoppy IPA, and those are sort of, the Mexican lager is sort of timeless. I plan to be at the beach. It's perfect for that environment, and it's just well executed. It's a clean, enjoyable beer. You could drink several of them and not be out of control. And I think there's a place for flagships, and I appreciate when breweries have stuff that they always have available, because you don't see it everywhere now these days. Everything's new.
So you were talking about when you want to do it. Do you want to, you're homebrew now, and I heard you say you homebrew in a shed. You have a shed at your house?
Yeah, I have a shed. So I live in Ventnor, so close to the beach. We don't have a garage. The house is, I have myself, my wife, my dog, 14-month-old, and another one on the way in June. So, there's no spot for any brewing equipment in the house. I was brewing over at my wife's uncle's house down the block. He had a garage, which was where I kept my gas-fired system when I had that. I had a Brew Magic that I sold, and I bought electric when I went into the shed. So now I'm running a 20-gallon SS Brewtech e-kettle mash tun, and then my hot liquor tank is sort of a Frankenstein $60 thing with an electric heater. I mean, I use the SS Brewtech to heat up all the water and just dump it into a low-tech hot liquor tank, and I could keep it at strike temp or whatever, cleaning temp. But the SS Brewtech is like a 550-watt element. It just rips.
So what I was getting at, so she doesn't have a she shed, you have your her she shed's gone.
She doesn't have a she never did.
And she's not getting one now.
And my shed brewery is, as we collect toys and tools for the kids. The brewing space is getting a little bit tighter. But I still took over that space. Sorry, babe. But no, yeah. So I'm pretty much at capacity as what I could do at home, and it's more than enough. I mean, it's more than I'll ever need at this scale. I make more beer than I could drink or give out right now. I mean, pending COVID, a little bit different, right? When you could have people over. But yeah, it's a good scale to start at. I have, all my fermenters are temperature controlled, so I can make lagers, I can make whatever I want. I mean, I've put enough money into it. But I always looked at it as, this is really, as we said, everybody needs an expensive hobby, but when you have the mindset of, I want to turn this into a commercial business one day, you could sort of justify spending the money.
sort of. Yeah, especially trying to get good at that.
Yeah, and Jack, as you mentioned, like if and when, I do open one day, I probably won't be the head brewer. I want to know enough about it, but I want to hire, there's plenty of people out there that have gone to school, that have brewed for years, that could, know a lot more than I do and cost me a lot less money and mistakes than, I can. I mean, I obviously want to have an opinion and thoughts into, I mean, I would essentially run more of the business side, but then be, an assistant brewer when I can.
That's kind of how I do it, Jeff. It's important too, because Jersey's still underserving brewery-wise for how densely populated the state is.
Absolutely.
But what you run into is that, not even like a competition thing. There are breweries 15, 20 minutes from everyone, like unless you're out in the boonies somewhere. But if you don't have like 3 years ago, you had a period to open up. You had like people would say, oh, you're a new brewery, give you a couple months, come back, try it out, like a year-long process to kind of figure things out. Now it's like opening day, opening week, and opening month. Like if your beer's not that good, something 20 minutes in 4 different directions.
Your stuff better be good.
So that's why finding Josh was good, because like we came out the gates like swinging pretty hard with the stuff we put on tap. And then that's kind of where the core 4 came from. But I knew I could definitely brew, like it's something I was interested in, but I knew like I wouldn't come out the gates like hot. Like I would come out at like a lukewarm temperature and then eventually like rise up. But it's tough to do that in this kind of market now.
Yeah. You don't have to. There's people out there that are qualified. Like my thing is, you want the best. You want to create an environment where the most talented people are attracted to you, and that they'll come and you create jobs, you create opportunities for other people to and that's part of the reason behind what I'm looking to do is it's not for me, it's for the community, it's for our region, building up the economy, bringing more businesses in, bringing more people to live there. The shore ain't a bad place to live. I mean, now with remote working, if you're young, you have great restaurants in Atlantic City, you have great restaurants in the towns. It's actually my wife and I were living in New York City for 10 years, and we up and left the city and just moved to the shore because we wanted a different life.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to have a remote work situation that let me have that and still make enough money to make it work. But now why wouldn't, if you're stuck in Philly, like it's an hour from Philly, I want to go to Philly for a day. For lunch, I go to Philly. So I think the next 5 years are going to be interesting in that whole shift in regard. But, part of what I wanted was, the big city doesn't need you. Go into your local town, work hard, open a business, improve a community.
Well, that was one of the first things you came when you looked here. You looked out and you said, "Oh, Main Street." And you commented how you like the brewery right on Main Street.
Literally on Main Street. I love to see a brewery and a tap room right on Main Street. I think it's a wonderful thing for a community.
Yeah, this town has a lot of potential. Like we really believe in this town, and once things start clearing up a little bit, like we're going to start pursuing getting a lot more business in here. But we're hoping that us coming in here, I mean, we know it's brought a lot of people in here, and we know that 2 places have opened up because of us. Volcano is going to do well, and I'm excited to see new business coming to it, because this town's had a lot of
breweries are pretty unique in that ability. And I think especially in Jersey, the restrictions where you can't sell food. I mean, people complain about it a lot, but I think there's also benefits where, okay, so you being here, a restaurant could look at the space next door and probably be more attracted to it now because you have all the brewery customers to partner with.
Well, Jack has a restaurant right next door. We have 10 pizza parlors in town or something?
Pizza places in here.
Yeah, we have a lot of pizza. I keep telling Jack I'm going to open a taco place next door to him.
I'd be fine with that. I got sushi on one side, got a diner on the other, tacos across the street.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be great. You know what I'm looking for? I'd like to have open in this town near you?
What?
Distillery.
Yeah, maybe it would be dope for a distillery.
That would be great to have a distillery on Main
Street. I think you're looking at me to do something, but like I need a little bit of time to get this thing underway first.
Yeah.
I can look at it.
I don't know. I don't know if the laws would permit that either.
What? Close by, not with him, but close by.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
There's not many in Jersey, is there? Distilleries.
I don't know.
I think there's 4 or 5.
I don't know.
There's probably more than that.
Yeah, there's
by now.
More. Yeah.
Down by me, I mean, we have Little Water in Atlantic City. There's a Cape May,
Jersey Shine or whatever. Right, that's the one down in Millville.
There's Trainwreck.
Reckless Town Farm.
You used to have Petty's Island.
Yeah, that was
They
good.
closed, right?
They closed. Yeah.
There's another that just opened up that does rum. I forget who it is.
Then you have Sourland Mountain.
Yes, there is more. Yeah.
There's probably 8 or 9.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not many.
hard. It's. I think they're much more reliant on. It takes time to put together a cocktail. It's not just pouring a beer. It's they're much more reliant on the sales of the bottles itself and distribution than a brewery that could pour a beer, sell it, and make good margins on over-the-counter beer. It's a lot tougher business, I think, in terms of tap room, or not tap room, but the bar.
Right.
I'm good friends with Mark from Little Water. He's they're doing they're just released a chocolate martini in a bottle, and he's expanding his product line. Their Prosperity rum is incredible. I don't know if you've ever had it, but it drinks like a bourbon almost. It makes a mean old fashioned. It's like, if you could get your hands on a bottle of a Little Water Prosperity rum, I would highly recommend that one. That and their gin.
I like rum.
Yeah, it's a dark rum, but it drinks like a whiskey pretty much. It's delicious.
I actually might find myself out by the Seed today, so maybe I'll.
It's right next door, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I was there last Sunday at the Seed. First time in their tap room.
Yeah, they just opened up. I think they opened up their tap room inside a few weeks ago.
Really nice job with that, and they're great people. And
Farmhouse and Saisons are two of my favorite styles. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, and they are beer people through and through. This is their passion, and it comes through in the beer. And there ain't just things other that their IPA was, when they first opened up, they released cans, and their IPA was a hazy IPA, but it finished nice and good dryness to it. It really nice and crisp. It's the surprising winner of their first release, and they could do. Amanda's been brewing for all over.
Yeah.
She was brewing for 7-8 years now, so she knows all the tricks of the trade.
Was she at Tuckahoe?
She started at Tuckahoe.
She started at Tuckahoe.
Most recently, she was helping out at Ludlam before they launched the Seed.
All right.
But she makes some great beer, and they're passionate about it. I went Sunday at noon, and Sean sat down with me and Tom, who I met there, and we just chatted beer for hour and a half. And
I'm also remembering now that I was supposed to message them yesterday, tell them I was trying to come down today. Zeppy told me to do it, but so now I got something to do after the podcast.
I'm very excited for them, because I think they are, choosing to come into Atlantic City, choosing to be so hyper focused and true to their beer. I mean, I think they're sort of hopefully the poster child for the next wave in Jersey craft beer.
Right.
And a few people pop up like them, and hopefully one day, I do get open. They're a close neighbor. People could tag along, go to their brewery, come to mine, or come to my brewery, go to theirs.
Well, that's a good thing. There's a lot of places that they're
close. Because I'm not focusing on Saison and Farmhouse. I'll tell you want that, go down to Atlantic City and go to the Seed. Yeah. Go to the Seed, because I can't make a beer that good. And that's never been sort of my cup of tea, to play with that mixed firm.
So what beer do you say that you make the best?
I think my IPAs and stouts are my two sort of, and usually the products that I'm most happy with.
Yeah, you always feel most comfortable making.
Yeah.
You feel turn out the best.
I say it's comfortable. I'm not uncomfortable making anything. I find with brewing and beer, fear should have no place in it. You have to be confident, and you have to, there's art to it, there's science to it, so be grounded in science, but, don't be so serious with it. I think it's people are, intimidated a little bit, and I think that comes through in the beer. I think you need to be a little fearless, a little confident, and just try to make your best beer. And the worst thing that happens is you dump a batch at the end of the day. If you get into it, be very serious about sanitation and cleaning, which is 90% of the work. But yeah, I think so. My IPAs and my stouts are, but I do sort of, I don't know. I make a baklava brown ale that I really enjoy. I think I have 2 cans of it here. I think that has lactose in it, so I don't know if I'm allowed to serve it here.
You can serve it, as long as it doesn't go in my tanks.
But those are, I like to drink those beers. Not so much. I'm going away from the hazy IPAs these days, more towards traditional West Coast, a little drier, more balanced. Even hazies, I try to get them to finish a little lower, but I have a can of hazy IPA. It's probably my favorite beer to brew.
Okay.
Best beer I've probably ever brewed, in my personal opinion. But what are we drinking?
We're drinking here. We're drinking the Pilsner.
Doc's orders.
Yeah.
It's American Pilsner, right?
Correct.
So.
Cascading Columbus.
Yeah.
American hop.
Gotta love them.
It's almost in a weird way like a made up style, because like you're really just saying it's an American Pilsner because you're using American style hops.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably using old German Pilsner malt because that's what you have, right?
Yeah.
And it's the best. And it's the best.
I think that Pilsner malt's the best base malt you can use for anything, and it just rounds out a Pilsner.
Yeah, I use a lot of 2-row in my IPAs, but my trend go towards more Pilsner, maybe go a little bit lighter with it.
You can build off of it. It provides like a really clean base for pretty much anything you want.
Yeah, I always stock. I buy 55-pound sacks of. I always try to have Weyermann Pilsner, 2-row, Maris Otter, Golden Promise. I use a lot of Golden Promise in my beers. I always try to have those on hand, and then flaked oats, flake sweets, and
and what are
carapils. What's that? These are malt. These are types of malts.
Okay.
So these are the grains you crush and you mash.
I just drink beer.
Yeah. So
talk about
you
pretend.
grains come in these big sacks, and you crush them in a mill, and you basically throw hot water in them at around anywhere from 145 to 160 degrees, depending on what you're looking to accomplish with the beer. Or you could step mash it, start it low, and bring it up. I use a Remscut. I can step mash, but usually with the malts these days, you don't have to.
Okay, yeah.
When I brew beers that have like a lot of raw wheat in it or something, I definitely try to step mash it. So this wit was actually step mash, but it had a ton of raw wheat in it. It's just a pain to mash. So I keep those. I mean, American Pilsner. Maybe you could have done a 6-row, base, but you have probably Weyermann on available, and it works, and it's nice, and you get the hop bitterness from it that are distinct.
You want that little bite at the end.
Yeah, there's
not enough where you're like. So our big thing with this is like, we get tons of people come in and say like, I drink Bud Light, I drink Budweiser, and I always say there's nothing wrong with that. In a weird way, like
I'll still
there's
drink
some
Bud.
of the best breweries, because if you can make something that consistent for that long and never have it change, is kind of wild. But people will come in knowing that flavor. They'll know like, hey, I like a light beer. I'm like, okay, like this is gonna be different, but this is a good first step for you.
Yeah,
it's almost the same thing as like step mashing. You don't want to, say like, I drink Budweiser. All right, here's a 9% barley wine. Here's a 7% like dip, but like. You got to start somewhere, man.
Yeah,
so we did the Pilsner as that's a really good. I don't like beer that much. Try the Pilsner.
It's a first step
to it. Yeah.
I've really never been the one to hate on macro beer. Like, you want to see something incredible. There's I think it's on Netflix, but there's a movie called like Brewmasters. That's like every year Budweiser AB runs a competition of who can make the best Budweiser from across the globe. And it just shows like it's 2-hour movie of like 6 different teams from all over, to like one guy from China, a couple places in the U.S. And it's just like, these people are so passionate about that product and making the best Budweiser. So you can't knock that. To make that beer across the globe so consistent.
It's wild.
With the variations that you get in grains from, China, right? Like, it's incredible what they do. And you have to appreciate that. I mean, I've never,
I crush PBRs on a daily basis.
The night I met my wife, I was drinking Budweiser in a bar on the Upper East Side of New York. I mean, it's that Budweiser has a place in my heart. It's the first beer I ever had at my grandparents' table when I was probably 14. I can still in my mind, I drink a Budweiser, I see that brown felt table, I could feel it. That's part of your process. Right?
Long neck bottles, long neck buds.
The Bud, my grandfather always had cans of Bud, and that's like the only beer he would really drink. Occasionally would drink it with dinner, like occasionally. But it was New Year's Eve, and I was like, I want, maybe I'll have a beer, and they let me have it.
Budweiser.
Yeah, it was Bud. I hated it, probably. It was super big.
I remember sitting with my dad and watching a movie, and the first beer I had, or sip beer, was a Coors Light, and I can remember that almost. I remember we were watching Alien vs. Predator. I was way too young to watch that movie. I was terrified for a very long time, but we were watching that movie, and I had a sip of Coors Light. And I remember sitting with. I can see the color of the couch we don't have anymore, the parts of the piece of the house for the addition. I see everything because you associate that with a memory, and to me, it's like. I don't know, like I can't knock that because it's like a big part of my life.
Yeah.
Even being craft beer, man, I still drink all the time. I mean, my first full beer really was like not mass produced, but a bigger brewery was Blue Point Brewing. So I grew up in Long Island.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, where at?
Malvern.
Patchogue.
All right.
I went to school at Chaminade.
I went to Trinity.
Nice. Okay. Small world.
Are we rivals?
Nah, we're good.
Not really.
He's not.
Wait.
We both hate St. Anthony.
Yeah, St. Anthony.
Okay.
All right, I thought it was a Blood Crips thing going on here.
We're good. As long as you're not St. Anthony.
Like, I'm out.
St. Anthony's just the worst.
Yeah, no, they were just really good at sports.
Yeah, that was the worst part of it. They would always beat us in everything.
Yeah, they had a really good football program.
Yeah, I think it was they had girls at their school. I didn't have that much.
You did not have girls. I had girls.
Yeah, that was a downside.
I had a lot of buddies that went to Chaminade.
Yeah, it's a great school.
Yeah,
sort of.
But it was all dudes.
Yeah, it was all dudes.
What you learn?
Got a little off track.
Yeah, sometimes.
But yeah,
Welcome to the podcast.
Was like that was my first like really full beer. Was a
toasted lager. Here you go.
So I still try to find it out here, man, and it's tough.
I still go like when you go to Penn Station, you just there's the pizza shop. You just get a
Always
32 of toasted lager
they have
for
it
like
everywhere,
$4.
It's wild, and it's still such a good beer.
It is.
Like that and the Mosaic were always my two favorites.
Yeah, it's delicious, and you can't knock it. Like, okay, it's owned by, but the people that brewed it still work there. You know, they're still creating a ton of jobs for people. So I don't knock macro beer like that.
I don't think anyone should because
What the heck is macro beer?
Big beer.
breweries.
Oh, okay.
Breweries that are owned by big conglomerates, AB and Bev.
You have micro breweries.
Heineken.
Yeah, so we're
Got
like
it.
Macro.
There's nano, micro, and macro.
There's actually Pico. That's what X Beer calls himself.
There you go. Yeah.
That's like 1-2 barrels.
Good old Harry.
So where were we?
It's just craft beer.
Yeah.
That's okay. We're allowed to get off track. Every
Yeah.
once
We do
in a
it
while.
all the time.
Yeah, we do that. We're good.
All the time. So macro is your big guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Micro is like
me.
you guys.
Micros, yeah.
Yeah, like anything I say micro is really anything that produces less than like I don't know, I'd say like 5,000 to 7,000 barrels really. I mean you can still be like a micro craft brewer. It's more like
Or like other half, or what would you consider Treehouse at this point, right?
there has to be a word for something in between a micro and a macro because they're not big enough where they're like a big conglomerate brewery, but I don't think that they're small enough at this point.
No, they're putting out 50,000 barrels a year.
Yeah, so there's definitely a word in between that I don't know, but they're like that in between.
But like, what is Victory? I mean, technically,
they're like a micro craft brewery because they're not a macro. Well, Victory got bought out, didn't they?
No,
that wasn't Victory. That's Fat Tire. I was saying, I don't know why I thought of
New Belgium.
Fat Tire. Yeah.
New Belgium's, yeah, but I mean, Victory teamed up with Southern Tier, and they have like investors behind them. And
well, it's the same thing as Blue Point. Blue Point got bought out by AB, and they're in a huge place now, but they're still like a craft microbrewery because they're not like some big all over the world thing yet.
Yeah, because they AB InBev has a few of them, right? Yeah, they're all buying them up.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much anymore.
No, they definitely calmed it down a little bit.
It hasn't. I think that was really in the big craft ramp up. I think the market is
the last like 3 years.
Yeah, like 2 to 3 years ago is when a lot of those acquisitions happened.
Things have slowed up since then, it seems.
Blue Point, Lagunitas, all them.
Competition has changed. A lot more local breweries have started to nip away. I think Sam from Dogfish says, you have either the big, jaws of death or the 1,000 little, jaws of death eating at you if you're sort of in that range of 10, 20, 30,000 barrels a year trying to make regional distribution.
Well, I think part of it was too, Constellation Brands bought somebody out for like way too much money. I forget who it was.
Yeah, it was that was Ball's Point.
Yeah, they bought them out for way too much money.
They way overpaid, and then they sold them for like pennies on the dollar last year to a bunch of Australians, which are and I love Ball's. I love Sculpin.
Sculpin's
right.
Beer.
It's a great beer. I mean, I went to their massive brew pub facility down in Roanoke, Virginia, and they
gorgeous.
It's closed now, which is a shame because it was packed when we went, and my wife had gone there. Her brother lives down there. She went back and it was packed again. But I went and I could get, I forget what their Victory at Sea, and they had like 50 versions of it. It was so cool. But they got that didn't end up working out because it's hard. I mean, I don't think anybody's got dreams to be that size brewery anymore these days. It's just not. It's not.
Yeah.
You want to do distribution stuff, but honestly, like I started at 5. We had the like, monetarily, maybe the opportunity to probably start at like a 10 or 15 barrel system, and I could have done small level distribution, but it's not what we want.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do like taproom sales, and I want to meet people, and like, if we get up to like, 20, 30, great for us,
that's a lot of beer.
Yeah.
That's a lot of beer.
You don't think about it, but like, that's a ton, man.
And think about like how you have to grow your business to sell that beer. I mean,
you talk about like salespeople and staff, and
a good thing as an owner is the early days or even before you start is like just decide how much is enough. Like, what do you want? I want this. Eventually, I would want it to be enough to, collect a salary where I could be comfortable and sort of live the kind of life I want to live.
My big thing is I want to be able to travel back to Long Island and see my parents and see like a 4-pack of our beer somewhere. Like, not like huge distribution, but like really low level stuff that I can just see like a 4-pack back in like my
like I think about that and like selecting some markets that mean a lot to you. Like Long Beach is, a lot of my buddies moved there sort of after college, like Long Beach, New York. I spent my 20s, drunk on the streets of Long Beach. But it would be cool to like go back there in 5 years and, see your beer on tap there and just there. Like, it's part of like the Shoreside thing is like, okay, I want it to be mostly where I am, but like with a name like that, I could pick a few spots, or maybe down back up in Long Island, in Long Beach, or maybe down, somewhere interesting where I go spend my winters. But I think it's important to ask how much is enough, and then figure that out real early and build a sustainable business that isn't just, growth. Like I see what other halves doing right now, and it's just like, when does that stop?
It almost doesn't seem fun.
Yeah, like they still make incredible beer.
Oh yeah, they knock it out.
It's like, and that's going to be the challenge of like distribution, is like you go on the shelves now, and eventually you're going to have to compete with other half for like quality of beer. You're just not going to be able to do it.
Well, they're out in 2 spots in Jersey now.
Yeah, so I mean, that's from a distro standpoint. That's a tough market to compete with that on the shelves. But that's IPAs and stouts.
Yeah.
So they do make good pilsners too. They do everything well. So, but it's just amazing to see where they've come in the last couple of years.
You all right, Aim?
I'm good.
You sure?
Yep. I'm good.
Back hurting, huh?
Yeah, it's hurting.
Did you ever see their original tap room?
Had to stand up.
I've never seen it, and like I lived in New York, and like I feel like now I just never took advantage of like.
They were nothing. It had city blocks of lines.
Gowanus.
Yeah, like city blocks of lines. And it's insane to see what they are now.
Yeah.
Like just going to a place that we went to a bachelor party up in like Buffalo. We stopped at the Rochester place. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But just to think that like they went from like, and I went in there for the first time, like I went to their tap room when they first opened, because it's being on Long Island and like having friends in the city and stuff.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, this second location, like another location that they have is like 3 times the size of their original place. And it's just an auxiliary location that they brew at.
Yeah.
It's crazy, dude. It's insane to see.
I think they keep their cans like down the block. They're like, and they like pallet them over. They can't even store it, but they keep the original location. Like it's pretty fascinating. I mean, it's part of like craft beer. It's amazing what it could do to a place. It
revitalizes place.
Gowanus is a toxic sludge canal neighborhood. Like,
yeah, now good luck getting an apartment.
Yeah. Hudson Valley up in Beacon. Like, it's just, I look at Vermont, and Burlington is like my favorite place to go. It's just amazing what a tourist economy for craft beer is.
Well, even like Portland, Maine, like little like Maine up there. Now you have like Maine Beer Company and all of them. They have a few of them up there. Well, they have the #1 per capita right now is Maine.
Yeah.
But like it's the same thing. You went to these like sleepy little tourist towns where there's like a small brewery you go and hang out at, and then word got out. And now it's like you go up there and it's like the place is packed with people from all over the country.
They're very breweries are very much an expression of the location they are in. Like the first when I was traveling from work, when I had to travel, the first thing I would do is look up where the closest brewery is.
Yep.
I discover
Thank God for Google, huh?
I discover a new city through a brewery, and if it happens to be a brew pub and have food, even better. I'm eating and it's a wonderful thing. And kudos to you for bringing it to a town. I hope to be able to do that as well.
Yeah.
For a place that I think really needs it.
That's kind of why I did it for this. Like we looked at other locations and like we could have moved to a busier town or somewhere, but I like this town a lot, man. This is one of my first apartments I had was out in Maple Shade, and like when I first moved to Jersey, this is where I was after. Well, I lived in Margate for a while, which is kind of rough. and commuted up to Mount Laurel. That was a fun drive.
It's not that rough in Margate.
No, I still worked up there. Margate was gorgeous.
Right next to Ventnor.
The drive at 5 in the morning was not gorgeous.
No, I know.
But no, I mean, this, like I said, this town has a lot of potential, and I think a big thing for us bringing this brewery here was to really say, like, okay, like, we believe in this town, and we believe in, like, craft beer, and we think that craft beer can make a town pretty much go, just be infinitely better. I mean, look at what Kings Road did for Haddonfield. There's failing restaurants in Haddonfield, and now Haddonfield is thriving. Their main street's amazing. The restaurant's doing great. Their housing prices shot up like crazy. Like, you bring craft beer and bring new people into a town, like, it completely revitalizes it. I think years ago, when this was all first happening, people thought, like, they thought of craft beer as a bar. They thought people drinking, getting drunk, being out till 2 in the morning.
And that's not the way it is.
It's not at all.
But now towns are starting to see, look at Morristown. Morristown sought out to have a brewery there, and they were a dry town, and now they want stratosphere there.
Right.
And so you're getting towns that are like, okay, well, now we understand what breweries can do for a town, and it's insane, like, what you can do.
Yeah, Riverton too. I mean, they're still been looking for somebody, right?
Right. Yep. Riverton's looking. They're dry town.
Yeah.
They're looking for somebody. Amy's looking for somebody in Delran.
Yeah, I'm still looking. I'll find somebody, please.
Give me a few years, I'll open a second place up there.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a unique, industry with the economic development. It does draw, and I know Ventnor. I know that the officials in government, they want it, and I've been looking at real estate for 2 years. I mean, it's the challenge with living at a shore town is there's not much available, and it's either very expensive or it needs to be raised because of flooding, or so it's just been extremely challenging. I mean, I found a handful of places that really would work, but it didn't pencil out economics wise. I mean, I really want to move forward with this, but I do love my family, and I do. It's
you like having a house,
it's
right?
not like make it happen at all costs. Like, I absolutely don't need that. Like, if at the end of the day, like, this all never comes to life, I mean, I'm sure there'll be part of me that will be regret of it, but I'm having fun with what I'm doing now. It's sort of tapping a side of my brain that isn't being tapped in other areas of my life. Creating beer, creating a business. I put in air quotes. Creating branding and a personality behind it. I mean, it's a fun exercise for me, and I do hope to be able to eventually realize it one day. It's a challenge. It's
a lot.
Incredibly expensive. I mean, I'm looking at $500,000 to $1 million at the very least.
Yeah.
depending on property.
Sorry, I left my wallet in the truck, Chris. So
and I'm like, I could probably raise that. Like, I do.
You probably could.
I probably could raise that capital, but it's a lot of responsibility behind that.
Right.
And so I'm thinking about ways to be a little bit more nimble. I don't necessarily I want to open a tap room right now. And even if I found a place, I wouldn't be open probably for 1.5 years. So who knows what 1.5 years from now looks like with COVID. But, I do want to, take a look at like what the opportunities are in craft beer now. And maybe contract brew a little bit.
That'd be a good way to get going.
Just to get some of my beer into the market, still very much locally focused. We're a summer town, so maybe try to get some contract brew batches into the market this summer. Because my thing is, I could still be a local presence in that market. People know me. That's. So I'm looking at alternative ways to at least just get some. The worst thing you could do is just kill any momentum. Especially with another baby on the way. Like, I just got to keep it chugging along.
Right.
Brew whenever I can. I'm always brewing. I'm always brewing on borrowed time. A lot of my brew nights start at mashing it at 9 p.m. and going to bed at 2.
Really?
But I have to do it.
You're right.
It's otherwise I'm not.
If that's the time when you got, it's time you got.
Yeah, I'm either taking time away from work or taking time away from my wife or my son, and I don't want to do that,
Right.
Finding that balance has been a challenge, even today coming here, it's like, Saturdays are family, but, you find the time and you do it whenever you can. So
it's tough. Yeah, my cat didn't mind that I left the house today.
But geez, it just goes to show like how much you enjoy it to actually do that. If I hated it, and brewing is hard work, it kind of sucks.
Right.
It doesn't kind of suck. It sucks.
It sucks. It just
it's 2 weeks of nothing, and then you finally get to like see what you did. But
it's so rewarding when you make a beer and you say, this is a really good beer, and other people tell you it's a really good beer, and a lot of times they're just telling you to tell you.
Enjoying your stuff is really
it's wow. You get a lot of satisfaction with that, and I think my personality, I've always been somebody that likes to please others. So I think, to a fault almost at certain areas of my life. But, I think it's why. And I have a technical I studied engineering undergrad. I have a technical background. I work in finance now. So some of that creativity I used to get to express when I was an engineer, I don't really have now. So this is sort of my outlet for that side, which my brain needs. Like I need that sort of area. So it's part of, my mental health. It also goes into that.
Right.
All right, I'm going to be rude.
Go ahead.
Can I try another one of your beers?
Yeah.
I think that's not rude. I think that could have gone a way different direction.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of rude because I'm asking.
What? That's not rude.
Yeah, you can try. I have.
Well, I don't know. I just feel like that's rude. Like,
we're talking about my beer. All right, we'll try.
I'm sorry. I want to
not
try
too rude, but can we enjoy more of the beer that we enjoy?
So we have a hazy IPA cup upcoming.
That is my baby too.
This is my baby.
All right, we'll go baby to baby.
Baby to baby.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of
baby battle.
Look at that.
We got a baby battle. This is great.
Long Island boys. All right, we get this.
Long Island.
Long Island.
The Long Island.
No one ever says
that. Do you pick up on my accent at all?
A little bit.
All right.
From Jersey say that.
I went to college at Drexel and I tried to kill it as much as possible while I was in Philly, but
I still eat chocolate. I still drink coffee. Like it's words that I'll never lose.
It creeps back.
The problem is I talk to my mom once a week too, so she's always saying stuff, and then every time I start talking to her for more than 20 minutes, I start sound from.
Yeah, but you have to think about it. Like I hear that I have a thick Jersey accent. And I hear this from people, from out west and stuff like that. I think, well, we were settled in the 1600s, and you guys were the 1800s. So who has the accent? We don't have an accent. We're normal. You guys have the accent.
Yeah, you're real normal. Huh?
Yeah. So
everything is water.
This beer is called Swaddle. It's a hazy IPA, Citra and Simcoe.
I smell the Citra.
50-50. And this beer is a little unique because after it's all done and fermented out, dry hopped, I actually add about to a 10-gallon batch, a pound of hop-infused honey. So it's sort of just the sort of thing I came up with one day. I'm like, what if I just put honey, a bunch of hops in honey.
Use a bittering hop for it?
No, Citra.
You do?
Yeah.
Huh.
And I keep it in, so you'll definitely get the sweetness.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you do.
No, I'm not being like.
You taste like full honey, but it has that little bit of hop to it.
Yeah.
So it cuts that sweetness, and Citra is more of like a floral hop as it is already.
So. Yeah, this was the first beer I brewed after my son was born.
That's the name.
Swaddle. Yeah, I was swaddling him a lot in those early days. So it's the honey has actually died down over time. This is the last can of this batch, but
you still get it though. Like you get it.
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, it's actually better that you don't get as much. I mean, this beer I would have loved to have finished a little lower, a little bit more dry before adding the honey, because I think it's a tad sweet on the finish, but actually is.
But it's not.
It doesn't stick with you. I would say a lot of the problems with sweet beers and the reason I don't like lactose that much and stuff is because I feel like a lot of times it's overused and that sweetness sticks. It's cloying. Like it goes from mouth to like chest.
It goes away.
That's honestly that's a good hazy IPA.
Yeah.
It's like sweetness to the front and then like a little bit of a dry finish, but it's not too dry because the honey kind of sticks with it a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice and balanced. I mean, even the base beer without the honey is pretty good too.
Yeah.
That would probably be my flagship IPA.
Do you use oat or wheat?
This one has both flaked oat and flake wheat.
Okay.
Yeah. 5 pounds of each.
Nice.
I don't know the overall grade. I mean, I use a lot of Golden Promise. So that's present, flaked oat, flaked wheats.
Yeah. We moved a little way away from flake. I mean, the first time we used flake.
I do use Warrior as a bittering hop, like a 20-minute edition. Okay. A little bit of bitterness. I can't, I need a little bit of bitterness.
But you want that though.
Yeah. But it's not like a 60-minute bitter bomb. It's nice, subtle, to balance out the sweetness, especially.
That's what you want. You want a little bit like fruit sweet to start in the hazy, and I like it finishing a little dry. Like that's kind of what we did with ours.
Yeah. I was chatting with the brewer. I'm like, I wanted to finish at 4 Plato max, because I think if you're any higher, you really, the sweetness kind of just overtakes it.
It's cloying, like it's not. It's
you can't drink more than one. Like I could drink even this beer. I probably couldn't drink more than 2. But some of these IPAs are just.
I was going to say 6.
They get after like a can, you're like, man, it's like you either felt like you drank a meal or it just blows
Especially
away your
on the
palate.
beach, like in the summer on the beach, I can't do this. Yeah, I want to.
Listen, I got no shame in the game. I'm still drinking Mike's Hard when we're at our, because we have a house in Fire Island.
Okay.
So I'm out there drinking Mike's Hard. I'm drinking PBRs. Like I still bring down like Crowlers and Growlers and my stuff, but that's when we have dinner or sitting down inside for a little bit. It's not when I'm out on the beach for 9 hours.
No.
Right.
No.
Okay, producer Richard here. I'm cutting this off. You filthy animals, how much did you drink? Can you ever keep an episode within an hour? I'm cutting this off and hitting the button. You can hear the rest in 2 weeks when a new episode comes out. Shoreside Part 2 of Jersey Beer Guys and a Girl. 2 hours. What are you, Joe Rogan?
The Jersey Beer Guys
And a Girl
is hosted by Rob Talley,
and Amy Diamond,
along with Eric Bracken and Ian Talley. It's produced and edited by Richard Rabing.
You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Jersey Beer Guys 1 or Instagram at Jersey Beer Guys.
Thanks for listening, and remember,
try something Jersey.
You still here? It's over. Go home. Go.